Okay, in this video we're going to review finding asymptotes. So you should have the rules written out in your notes, so I'm just going to go through and work the problems. So to begin with, I set the denominator equal to 0 to find my vertical asymptotes. So vertical asymptotes, x squared minus 3 equals 0. So x squared equals 3. So then you square root both sides and you get x equals plus and minus radical 3. So this particular function would have two vertical asymptotes. And if you get confused which one's vertical and horizontal, just solve the equation. You know, you need to say x equals plus and minus radical 3. Don't say y equals plus and minus radical 3. If you don't know if that's vertical or horizontal, that's not as big a deal as knowing that it's x equals this. And then x equals a number makes a vertical line. Okay, so then for your horizontal, y equals, and you take your highest exponent on top and bottom, so 5x squared divided by x squared. The x squares cancel out, or you can just say because the x squares have the same degree on top and bottom, you just use the coefficients. So y equals 5 is your horizontal asymptote. Okay, next problem, y equals 8x squared plus 7x minus 1 over x squared plus 25. So if we start on the bottom again, x squared plus 25 equals 0. So x squared equals negative 25. That can't happen. If you square root both sides, you're going to get plus and minus 5i. We cannot have a negative number when we square it, so that means there are no vertical asymptotes. Okay. Then again, we look at the highest exponents on top and bottom. They're the same, so y equals 8 is going to be my horizontal asymptote. Okay, then let's look at 9x to the 5th plus 2x to the 3rd minus 8x all over 3x to the 3rd. Okay, so you take your bottom, 3x to the 3rd, and set it equal to 0. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if x equals 0. You know, you can divide by 3 and then cube root both sides, but the only way you're going to get 0 is if x is equal to 0. So that is your vertical asymptote. Then you look at the highest power on top and bottom. So you have 9x to the 5th over 3x to the 3rd. You can cancel that out if you want to. 9x squared over 3, actually that'd be 3x squared, but if your top exponent is more than one higher than the bottom, there are no horizontal asymptotes, or slant for that matter, okay? So that takes care of that one. Okay, let's look at this one. Y equals 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. And then x cubed minus 1. So x cubed minus 1 equals 0, means x cubed equals 1. If you cube root both sides, that just gives you 1. It does not give you plus and minus 1 because 3 is an odd number. So if I would plug in negative 1 and take it to the 3rd power, I'd get negative 1. So don't plus and minus it when you have an odd power. So x equals 1 is my vertical asymptote. So then the top is 2x squared, the bottom is x to the 3rd. If the bottom is more, then you automatically know it's going to be y equals 0. It's because if you take 2x squared divided by x cubed, you end up with 2 over x, and if you take 2 divided by a huge number, that basically gives you 0. But you can just memorize that if the top exponent is bigger, if the bottom exponent is bigger, if the degree in the bottom is more than the degree on top, it's automatically y equals 0. Okay, so that takes care of that one. This one looks a little tricky, but it's not. 13x squared minus 2x plus 1 over 2x plus 3 times 5x minus 1. When one of your parts of your fraction, either your numerator or your denominator, is factored out, you need to think about what you would get if you would multiply it. So if you would multiply this out, your first term would be 10x squared. And you don't even care what the rest of it would be, because we want to compare it to this. So 13x squared divided by 10x squared would be 13 over 10. So y equals 13 over 10 is your horizontal asymptote. Okay? Now, to go back and get your vertical asymptotes, you're going to set the denominator equal to 0. Well, it's already factored out, so don't multiply it out. Factored is wonderful. So take 2x plus 3 and set it equal to 0, and take 5x minus 1 and set it equal to 0. Set each individual factor equal to 0. This gives you 2x equals negative 3. Divide by 2, and you get negative 3 halves. This gives you 5x equals 1. Divide by 5, and you get x equals 1/5. So you have these two as vertical asymptotes, this as your horizontal asymptote. Okay. Let's say, I think we already, I'm looking at my notes here, I think we already did that one. Yep, we did that one. So let's do 4x squared minus 15x plus 11 all over 2x minus 5. Okay, so if you look at the denominator, set it equal to 0, add 5 to both sides, you get 2x equals 5, divide by 2, x equals 5 halves. That is your vertical asymptote. Then look at the power on top and the power on the bottom. The top is 1 higher. That means there's no horizontal, but there is a slant. When the top is 1 higher than the bottom, you have a slant asymptote, and you have to do long division. So you put the top inside the box, and you make sure you put placeholders in there if you need any, but we don't need any here because I have an x term and an x squared term and a constant, so I don't need any. So 2x into 4x squared is 2x. Like, what do I multiply by 2x to get 4x squared? I got to multiply by 2x. Then take that times both of those. So that would be 4x squared minus 10x. Then we're going to subtract. That's always going to cancel out. Negative 15 minus a negative 10 is plus 10, so it's a negative 5x plus 11. Now this one's going to give me a decimal. 2x and a negative 5x. That's going to be negative 5 halves, or negative 2.5 if you prefer. You can take your calculator and do 5 divided by 2 if you need to, but I got to multiply 2 by 5 halves to get 5. Usually I'll have these come out to be whole numbers. And then you don't care about the rest. That times that is going to be negative 5x, and the rest of it is just remainder. You don't care. This is your answer. Y equals that. That is your slant asymptote. Okay? So that is all the possibilities that you might see when you're asked to find all of the asymptotes. So go over these videos and make sure you know how to do them.